guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be continuing our leaf green Nuzlock. If you haven't seen the past two videos, then I highly recommend going to check them out because it explains what a Nuzlock is, and also you'll get to see us defeat the first 4 gyms. Also, before we jump into the video, most people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So it would mean a lot to me if you wouldn't mind clicking that subscribe button because it's free and it really helps out the channel. But with that, let's get back into the run. First, before we go into the rocket hideout, I want to drop off Splash in the daycare so that we can get him at a decently high level. While we're walking around fighting trainers, Coin evolves, and I'm really happy about this because I've been waiting a long time for Persian. Next, after leveling up Vulpix and a few other Pokemon, we get Splash back from the daycare person. He's at level 17, which is actually a pretty good level, and we'll be able to just level him up the rest of the way, and then we'll be able to evolve him into Gyarados. And in literally 5 minutes, Splash reaches level 20, which means he can evolve into Gyarados. Just after he evolves, I decide I want to teach him Water Pulse because he actually doesn't have any water moves right now, and we still don't have Surf. Next, after we enter the rocket hideout, we get the lift key and are able to use the elevator to get to Giovanni. There's a computer that has all complicated words and numbers that make no sense, and sure, Giovanni is smart, but he did let a 10-year-old get into his secret hideout in literally 5 minutes. Now we're ready to fight Giovanni. Giovanni should be pretty simple because I have Splash, who has Intimidate, which is arguably one of the best abilities in the game, and he also has Water Pulse, which one-shots Onix, and also one-shots Rhyhorn. Gyarados grows to level 25, and then he wants to learn Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage is a really great move that does a set 40 damage, so I forget Splash, which does literally nothing. Next out is Kangaskhan. I decide to send out Tails because he really could use some EXP. From here, I just use Confused Ray and Will-O-Wisp, and the battle's pretty much over from here because Kangaskhan can pretty much almost never attack, and his attack is lowered really low because of Burn. And just like that, Kangaskhan is defeated, and also Giovanni. I'm sure we'll never see him again. Next, we go and fight our rival. My rival starts off with Pidgeotto, and I start off with Tails. Tails uses Confuse Ray, and then his Pidgeotto uses Sand Attack. Next, I decide to use Will-O-Wisp, which luckily hits, and then Pidgeotto hurts itself in confusion. Now it's pretty much just a waiting game because all I need to do is spam Quick Attack, and then the burn will pretty much take care of Pidgeotto. After taking out Pidgeotto, next out is Gyarados. Gyarados actually doesn't know any water moves, so I decide to stay in. I miss my Confuse Ray, and then I get hit by a critical Thrash, taking out Tails. This really sucks because I was looking forward to having a good fire type on my team, and Tails was about to learn Flamethrower. I decide to send in Splash, who takes care of his Gyarados with no problem. Next out is Execute. My bite almost knocks it out, and then I get put to sleep with a Hypnosis. His Confusion doesn't do a lot of damage at all, so I just stay in, hoping to wake up soon. It actually takes a few turns to wake up, which I was not expecting this long to, but then I just finish him off with one more bite. Here, I made a really bad mistake. I thought that a bite could take out his Kadabra, but it actually leaves Kadabra with a sliver of HP, and then I get hit with a critical hit Confusion, taking out one of our best team members. Yeah, this really sucks. I was not expecting this rival battle to be so hard, especially since I was over-leveled for this battle. Next, I decide to send in Coin, and I just use one more bite to take out the Kadabra, but that really sucks. We lost 2 really important team members, but luckily we're able to finish this battle with no more deaths. I wasn't expecting this battle to be so hard, but it looks like I shouldn't have been so confident, which really shows in a Nuzlock that things can be going really well for you, and then you can lose 2 very important team members. Then I have to put Gyarados and Vulpix in our dead box. Sorry guys, you were great team members. My next encounter in the Pokemon Tower ends up being a Ghastly. Ghastly's a great Pokemon and all, but the only thing that is kinda sad is that Ghastly will never be able to evolve into Gengar. So I give him the appropriate nickname, Not a Full W. Soon after though, Not Full W is able to evolve into Haunter, who arguably is one of the best ghost Pokemon ever created. Next, he wants to learn Shadow Punch, which is a way better move than Lick. Next, after defeating the Marowak, we get to Mr. Fuji. He brings us to his house, and then he gives us the Poke Flute, which basically opens up the rest of the map to us. Next, I go to the house where the guy gives you the Super Rod, and this is going to be really helpful for getting a water encounter. My encounter for Route 12 ends up being Krabby, which is not my favorite water Pokemon, but I think he'll do okay. I do have to admit, I am stealing Krabby's nickname from a YouTuber named Tion, who named his Krabby with butter. Please go check him out on YouTube. He does only shiny runs, and he's really cool. before we go to Koga's gym, I do need to get the bike so I can actually get there. My encounter for Route 17 ends up being Raticate, which, well, Raticate will be a great HM user. That's all I'm going to say about Raticate. Raticate is pretty easy to catch, and then I end up giving him the nickname Toothy because, well, he's got tooths, so like, Toothy? Yeah. Next, Kadabra learns one of his best moves ever, Psychic. This is going to be really helpful for Koga since he uses Poison-type Pokemon. Next, I go to this building so I can get the EXP share, but I realize I do not have 50 species of Pokemon. I actually end up only having 29. So yeah, it's safe to say it's going to take a really long time to get the EXP share. Next, I head to Route 15 where I can get my next encounter, which ends up being a Venonat. Venonat's not great, but it's not horrible either, honestly. I end up catching Venonat pretty easily, but then I have to give Venonat a nickname, which takes a long time to think about. For absolutely no reason, I end up giving Venonat the nickname April, and now we can continue to the Safari Zone to get our next encounter. Here, I actually got what I was hoping for. I really wanted a Rhyhorn because Rhydon is in my top 3 Pokemon, and we actually end up getting one. It does take a while to catch, but we end up getting one of my favorite Pokemon, and then I decide to give Rhyhorn the nickname Andesite. Next, we head to the Warden's house, and I give him his gold teeth, and then he gives us the HM for strength. Soon after that, Leafy evolves into Venusaur, which is going to be a great addition to our team, and I'm so glad that we've been able to keep Leafy throughout this whole run. Next, we finally make it to Koga, and all you really need for Koga is a Psychic-type Pokemon, and I've got Kadabra, so we're pretty much guaranteed to win here. I decide to start out with Andesite against his Coughing to get some stomps in and get him some EXP. Unlike Coughings tend to do, he ended up self-destructing right in Andesite's face. Didn't do a lot of damage to Andesite though, so then I send out Spoon for his Muck. I use Psychic, which should be a one-shot, and then I get a crit, which is really nice, even though I didn't need it. Spoon is definitely the MVP of our team right now, and I'm thinking that Andesite might be taking his place soon as the MVP when he evolves into Rhydon. The only thing that happens for this Coughing is that I get actually pretty low on HP here, so I have to switch into Spoon of course, and then all it takes is one more Psychic to take out his Squeezing. And just like that, we've defeated Koga pretty easily. Next, we make it to Silphco, which is controlled by Team Rocket right now. So of course, it's up to a 10-year-old kid to save it. Next, Krabby evolves into Kingler. This is great because we needed a strong water type for our rival battle in just a minute. And just like that, we're already at our rival battle. My rival starts off with Pidgeot, and I start off with Spoon. Spoon uses Psychic, which does just over half, then I get hit with Wing Attack, but then one more Psychic takes out Pidgeot. Next in is Gyarados, so I send out Leafy. I get intimidated by Gyarados, and then I go for Leech Seed. I get hit with a Dragon Rage, doing a decent chunk of damage, and then I use Razor Leaf. He just keeps using Dragon Rage, so I just keep using Razor Leaf, hoping for a crit. I never get one though, and I get into the red, so I need to switch out. I decide to switch into Kingler, and all I need to do is hit one Stomp, and I'll take out Gyarados. And luckily, I end up hitting it first try. With Gyarados out of the way, next in is Execute. I decide to switch into not full W, because his Shadow Punch will be pretty effective against Execute. I start off with a Confuse Ray, and luckily he hits himself a few times in Confusion, while I just use Shadow Punch. I do get hit with Stun Spore, but then luckily he hits himself one more time, but then of course I get Paraflinched, but luckily my next Shadow Punch hits its mark, and Execute is done. My only real choice here is to switch into Spoon because he has Recover. I start off with Thunder Wave and he uses Future Sight. Luckily, I can use Recover and gain a good amount of HP back. Now though, pretty much just a back and forth of Psychic, Psybeam, and Recovers. And luckily, it's not too long before Alakazam hits himself in Confusion and I finish him off with one more Psychic. We're on Nolan's last Pokemon and by far his scariest. I decided to use Andesite because I'm pretty sure Andesite could take out Charizard here pretty easily, and 2 Rock Blasts to take out Charizard. There were actually some really tough spots in there where I thought I was going to lose a Pokemon, but I'm glad we made through with no deaths. Next we can get Lapras from this guy, and I decided to give Lapras the nickname Shelly. Finally, we're at Giovanni. I'm not really worried about this battle because we've got types to counter pretty much all of his Pokemon, so I decided to start with Spoon and use Psychic, and Nidorino is immediately taken out. Next out was Nidoqueen, and don't ask me why I tried to use Thunder Wave on a ground type. I get it right though next turn by using Psychic, and it is almost a one-hit KO, and then I get my defense lowered, but luckily another Psybeam takes out Nidoqueen. Spoon is definitely the MVP of our team right now. I decide to send in Andesite here for Kangaskhan, and I try to use Horn Drill, and I get hit with a Fake Out. Next, I decide to use Horn Drill again, but then of course it misses. But my third Horn Drill finally hits its target, and Kangaskhan is one-hit KO'd. Next in is Rhyhorn, and with Butter can take him out with one Surf. And we've beaten Giovanni again, and not for the last time. Next, I get the Master Ball, and now we're ready to fight Sabrina. I'm really nervous for this battle because actually I'm kind of underleveled, but we'll see how it goes. She starts out with Kadabra, and I decide to start out with Haunter. I start out with a Shadow Punch, which actually one-hit KOs Kadabra. Next out is Mr. Mime, so I decide to send in Spoon. I decide to use Psybeam, which does not a lot of damage, and then Mr. Mime just uses Barrier. Twice actually, so I get a few Psybeams off. Mr. Mime actually uses Baton Pass, so one Psychic takes out Venomoth, and then she sends back in Mr. Mime. Don't ask me what all those barriers were for, she just decided to switch out, but I'm not complaining. Next out is her final Pokemon, Alakazam. I use Thunder Wave even though that means paralyzing myself, but honestly I'm okay with it. I decide not to switch here because she's just going to use a full heal, so I can get another Thunder Wave off. Now I switch into Andesite, and he can just use Rock Blast here. I'm hoping for a 5-hit Rock Blast so I can take him out. It only needed 4, but I actually hit 3. Next I use Strength, which is way more powerful, and I take him out in 2 strengths. Finally, we've defeated Sabrina though. Guys, that's where I'm going to have to leave off the video for today, but if you enjoyed it, please remember to click that like button, and maybe even take a second to subscribe, because it really helps out the channel. But I will see you guys in the next episode of our Leaf Green Nuzlock.